Alright, how's it going, guys? My name is Samso, and today we're going to go through a VOD review for UML Esports for Upsurge. This is Life Essence Shadow versus White Lotus. So, going into the game, we are immediately going into pick and ban at 2x speed. And so, what essentially happens is that blue side first picks on, which means that they want to look for a good engage tool. And we kind of already understand what they want to do because they want to have a low econ top lane and they want a reliable form of engage. So they pick away the sound right away, which is why White Lotus is pick. Blue side picks Jarvan and Thresh. Solid picks. Jarvan is S tier in the current meta where he could be flexed jungle and top. In a meta where flexing is very important, you want to first pick whatever is the best or S tier in the meta, or you want to pick the champion that can be flexed into literally anything in a meta like this. So Jarvan is good by red side, and Thresh essentially means that he is a very blind and pickable champion, and he will be very solid for the bot lane. So White Lotus immediately, we pretty much know their entire MO off those three picks because they want a team fight, they want to dedicate the resources into Tristana, and they just want to get the bot lane very far ahead and have Tristana basically snowball off the game. And pretty much that's the entire mode. On red side, essentially what they end up drafting third is Lissandra, J4, and Thresh. What this means is that the J4 Lissandra will be very, very strong in the 2v2 versus or 3v3 matchup in the top side of the map, which leaves red side in a very comfortable spot, knowing that they could skirmish and essentially, basically, ideally, either leave bot lane on a island and just continuously generate leads through the soul lanes so that if they're very far ahead, they can essentially snowball the game. And if the skirmishing does not go successfully, red side would be at a serious detriment because they drafted these picks. And if the bot lane goes either even for blue side or ahead, then red side's in trouble. So let's continue to draft. They banned Sejuani, they banned the Gragas. Now, the Gragas ban is actually, by red side, is actually not optimal due to the fact that Ivern is also a S tier pick in the current meta. Knowing that blue side currently has a very bot-centric type composition right now, where they have a low econ top, high econ bottom lane, you need to be able to ban away the Ivern over Gragas. Gragas will be able to secure or be stronger than 2v2 and in the early game. But overall, Ivern will be much more effective in protecting the Tristana with Lulu. So ideally, you want to be able to ban the Ivern away. Now on blue side, they banned the Kalista, which early in the series, Kalista did very well, and Caitlyn, because they knew that they want to be able to equalize the laning phase, because they want to take away whatever's strong and can snowball off the laning phase. So bot lane actually locks in Kai'Sa here, which is Kog'Maw actually, which is very interesting because obviously Kai'Sa would be the meta usual pick, but due to the current landscape of the meta and patch 9.3, Kai'Sa has become one of the least optimal AD carry in the current meta. And let me explain that. So with the build path that Kai'Sa currently has, she essentially needs to go Infinity Edge into Guinsoo's into Hurricane. And with those three items, they are extremely expensive. And basically, Kai'Sa won't hit her spike as she usually does in the previous metas. Yes, she still gets the upgrade on Q after Infinity Edge, but she is not the team fight monster until further into the late game. And to further emphasize on that point, Kai'Sa is not as strong in the laning phase as she once was. Kai'Sa usually in the past or even now, she's very, very reliant on the effectiveness of the support champion along with her, which means that, for example here, if Thresh misses any hook, Kai'Sa would not be able to trade back in the Tristana Lulu lane because they would instantly lose the trade. So by drafting the Kog'Maw here, it's actually very, very intelligent because Kog'Maw has a far superior range to Tristana, and in the current meta, Tristana is very, very weak in the laning phase. So since she drafted the Lulu, it means that she wants to be able to survive in the laning phase and simply equalize. If Tristana, for example, had Alistar or anything else, Kai'Sa Ezreal would be the more effective pick because they are more safe in the lane. But red side here wants to generate a lead, which means Kog'Maw is a much superior pick due to the long range, as well as the percent health damage, knowing that they have a Lissandra pick on the team. So if you draft Lissandra in the current meta, it means that you have far lower DPS in your mid laner, which means this needs to be basically gained from somewhere else. So if you draft a Lissandra, ideally you want a damage jungler or you want a damage top laner, and then you want to have a mixed damage in the other 3 roles. So Kog'Maw with his percent health would be very effective against Sion. So Kog'Maw is a thumbs up here. Now, this is kind of an int, but red side decides to draft Jax and Vladimir. Now, Vladimir is understandable because he understands that their team fighting would be very effective with him. But with the Jax pick, it essentially means that their early game, if they ever stifle, they are essentially choked into a position where they cannot effectively push their lead. So, as I said earlier in the VOD, the much better pick here would actually be the Ivern, because they already understand their win condition in the Tristana, and Vladimir would essentially be the backup win condition if they scale late enough. So Jax is an end pick because he cannot push the tempo early game as much as J4 can. And red side ends it out with Kled pick, which is good due to the fact that Kled is very strong in the current meta. But knowing that the type of composition that blue side actually has right now, it would be much safer to actually pick a tank here due to just essentially the mix around of damage. So by drafting Kled, by drafting J4, by drafting Kog'Maw, you essentially limit yourself into a very, very deep AD pool. With Sion, with Jax, with Vladimir on the other team, it would be very difficult to actually pump out damage in an equalized game because all of them could easily build resistances. They can avoid your auto attack spells and other abilities. So, although Kled is a strong pick here, in an objective sense, having someone like Ornn or any other S tier top laner that's maybe a tank would be more optimal in a composition with Lissandra Kog'Maw, but it still makes sense to have Kled due to the additional damage from the top lane role. So that essentially concludes pick and ban, and let's jump into the actual game. Okay, so let's go that 4 times. And look at the team compositions. Actually, let's go back. So let's actually start from the beginning. So let's reiterate some of the concepts that we talked about in the draft. So what blue side wants to do is to sack top lane because they essentially know that they are currently in the Kled matchup, which means Kled inherently wins through slight jungle assistance and essentially ends up scaling better because of the new Conqueror rune. This is very good at taking down tanks due to the true damage, and Kled is a much better trader than Sion. So what Sion really wants to do here is be able to use his ulti, let's see, and impact either this lane or very, very ideally bot lane. Sion really wants to get bot lane ahead because he understands that he's already a low econ top laner, and ideally he will not be getting very many ganks from Jax. In an ideal situation, obviously in UML, no team really goes, like, not very many games go to the actual win conditions of their respective drafts. Jax, on the other hand, very good duelist against Jarvan, but Jarvan should be able to beat Jax in the early game. But if Jax ever reaches the 25 to 35 minute mark, once he completes his Triforce in an even game state, Jax would be much more effective in actually dealing either in the split push or essentially be stronger as a champion than J4 in an equalized game state. Another big issue here with Jax is that he did not go Hail of Blades. Hail of Blades is essentially what pushes a lot of early game junglers, or it enables a lot of junglers to have an early game. And since you went press the attack, you basically, as red side, you currently already understand that he wants to scale into the mid and late. He will not be very effective in the early game due to the fact that he did not take Hail of Blades, which means J4 needs to be able to impact, either completely shut down this lane or completely shut down this lane to the point where Kled is very, very far ahead. He has two different ways of going about this. So let's reiterate. Get top lane very far ahead, or completely shut down these two and stifle their win condition. He has different ways of playing this game. And depending on the game state, both are very, very effective choices that he can make. On the other hand, let's go down. Vladimir is a very good scaler in the current meta. He spikes around 1-2. He basically spikes right after early game in the correct hands. In an equalized game state, Vladimir is very, very dangerous, which means Vladimir is a solid pick for them, but it is equalized by the Lissandra pick. With the Lissandra pick, you essentially equalize most mid lane matchups in the current meta, which is why Lissandra is very, very strong. So what Lissandra wants to do is to impact with the jungle assistance the Kled matchup by either completely shutting down Sion. Red side would have a very good strategy to essentially push the tempo. Right now, the early game skirmishing and the 3v3s against blue side's team, red side hard wins. Very, very hard wins. Like, due to the early game strength and the mid game strength. So red side really wants to be pushing the 3v3 tempo against their team. Let's go further down. Tristana and Lulu do not have very good laning phase, but once Ardent Sensor is checked and achieved, the Tristana would effectively be very, very online and would be able to push the tempo for the mid-game team fights. She will be stronger than the Kog'Maw at around 2 to 3 items if the game state is equalized. Now on the other side, with the Kog'Maw Thresh, Kog'Maw is actually a very lane-dominant champion. If you actually look into the win percentages of solo queue, you will actually find that Kog'Maw is actually has a higher win percentage around mid game rather than late game, and that's because of his long range. I believe his range is actually either as long as Caitlyn or even longer. So in the correct hands, Kog'Maw can actually be played as a lane bully, and due to his percent health damage, it would be very, very effective against the Sion to essentially absorb the fact that Lissandra pick is picked here, and the fact that she has way less DPS than a usual, for example, Vladimir pick, Victor pick, any other S tier junglers or S tier mid laners in the current meta. So Kog'Maw does a decent chunk of percent health and a decent percentage of ability power, which is good. So understanding this, this bottom lane is weak early game. This bottom lane is strong early game. So to reiterate, J4 again has two options. Push the tempo for the strong bot lane and get an early game lead and play it like a Caitlyn lane to get all towers throughout the game. Or abuse the fact that they are much stronger in the 3v3 and get these two laners ahead. But ideally, the Kled, because of how strong his dueling potential is, and the fact that nobody on this team can really stop Kled if he's probably ahead and itemizing effectively. So let's continue into the game and see what happens. So looking at the pathing, red side looks like they're about to invade, and blue side look to 5-man spread. And let's see what kind of pathing the red side takes.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
So to actually talk about an interesting concept, let's look at blue side and their Fog of War. So by pathing the way that they do, they path and hug along the wall, the bot lane for the other team would actually not be able to see the red team invade, which is very smart from the red side team, because earlier in the games they actually did not invade, which means blue side was not expecting it this game. Very smart invade. And Tristana essentially doesn't see it until the very last moment, and he is forced to take W in a second here. Now, let's see what red side actually could have done differently to actually secure this kill, because Tristana actually gets away. So let's enable both sides Fog of War.
Seconds until minions spawn.
Kog'Maw gets 0 autos off due to the Fog of War. Kled can actually, if he's willing to, flash forward to an because his hook actually prioritizes over the Tristana W. But if Kled decides to flash forward, Tristana's jump would actually be cancelled. On the other hand, let's see, J4 actually went flag, which is good for jungle clear, but if he actually waited until he put points, he might have actually gotten this kill if he went Q. Let's see. No, this would only be possible if Kled has flash forward, which is good that he didn't, because he would essentially throw the early game laning phase. So good job by red side. Let's see what happens later into the game. Actually, another point, due to the fact that Tristana actually started W, her early clear would be ass, so the red side should be looking to really abuse the early game laning phase and really have the Thresh position forward and punish the fact that Tristana started W and has basically no trading potential. So let's see how this game actually works out. Red side is blue side is actually AFK because they're actually so dumb, but they saw that red side had invaded. They should have gone forward and put wards in either the red, or to be even more efficient, they could have placed wards here, or perhaps no. I think this might be a really good spot. Just basically deep wards to essentially identify everything that red side is going to do, because they knew that red side had committed into the invade. Blue side should have definitely walked forward and established vision so that they know exactly what J4 wants to do in the early game, and possibly even ease the vertical jungling, because ideally Jax just wants to farm up due to the fact that he went press the attack and is unable to push the tempo against the the J4. So let's see what happens.
Minions have spawned.
Notice that blue side did not effectively have vision, so they are in a weird spot. The pixel ward is good, but you would essentially have a lot more information if you had vision in the jungle. This is very good, and essentially does everything that the pixel would do if you can get it freely. So ward is placed down. And with that, red side understands that they're starting bottom side due to the position. So for example, if blue side actually put the vision here, they would understand the exact pathing that J4 is going to go and basically work around it. So J4 actually goes buff to buff, which is good. It's actually to actually clarify, so you ideally want to go, you ideally don't want a vertical jungle, because if you handshake the vertical jungle in the current meta, you essentially leave one side of your map to fucking die. Because if you vertical jungle, the other side of the map literally cannot play the game. So for example, if J4 vertical jungled here, he would be playing towards his, one of his win conditions, which is to get Kled very far ahead. But to the fact that he didn't vertical jungle, it would mean that if Jax was going to vertical jungle, like from red to scuttle and to blue buff, then Jax would actually be hard screwed. But for example, Jax understanding this, he actually wants to vertical jungle because he doesn't want to meet J4 at any point in the early game, because J4 should potentially or hypothetically completely destroy Jax in the early game. So let's see what happens. Jax actually goes for a very greedy clear. It's like, this is very good in solo queue because this essentially means that you get the level 3 very early, or ahead of the other jungler if he went literally anything else. So let's talk about what this means. So by going buff to buff and then also securing the scuttle while Jax goes for full clear, if red side can actually froze or didn't push correctly, and if they actually communicated the fact that J4 was looking for early game gank, the red side, knowing that Tristana actually started W, should have looked to freeze this wave. And unfortunately, they end up pushing, which means they did not communicate properly about what they wanted to do. This is not good. Because if they wanted J4 to go buff to buff while also looking for the level 2 gank, red side should not be pushing this. This is a key indication that the red side team is not planning ahead. And this is still salvageable. Actually, no. About 4 more seconds ago, this is okay. Autoing the first minion once or twice is okay, because this means that you secure the level 2 ahead of the other laner. This is still a salvageable situation. So if they actually communicated the fact that J4 wanted to look for early gank, then this was still a salvageable point. Again, they looked like they did not communicate properly. So, just looking at the early laning phase, looking at what red side just did, they pushed, which means they already secured level 2. So after clearing these 3 minions, they should immediately posture to actually have Thresh posture here and Kog'Maw posture here. So by Thresh constantly being in Fog of War and knowing that they don't have wards, he can constantly be able to throw out hooks and essentially push the blue side into a very vulnerable position. So Kog'Maw should position here, Thresh position around here, because they understand that blue side effectively cannot dish out the same amount of damage, and they cannot trade as effectively as red side can. So they should have definitely positioned further up and not continue pushing. Ultimately, small things like this is what makes the difference between the Grandmasters to Challenger bot lane and a Diamond average bot lane, because they do not understand these small nuances to basically level 1 is actually one of the very biggest points of bottom lane. And if you understand that you have a superior trading bot lane, then you should be effectively utilizing it. And if you aren't utilizing it, that's what makes the difference between a really good bot lane and not that good of bot lane. Just essentially go back to the jungle matchup. We kind of veered off course a little bit. The reason that this gank doesn't create as much pressure as it should is the fact that red side bot lane pushed when they shouldn't have, or they didn't communicate properly on what J4 actually wanted to do. So at this point, they don't really know that Jax is actually going for a full clear. So this should work very well because they see that Jax did not go for the scuttle right after taking red to handshake the vertical jungling, which is good. So now that red side is pushed in, and essentially Lissandra got the early priority as she should have. She's helping her jungle get the scuttle, which is good. So this is the point where, like, everything we talked about before, this is why essentially red side is not able to push the tempo as well as they should have, because they did not communicate that they wanted to create a freeze. To actually talk about it even further, so usually bot lanes do not have a ward after the first minute and a half because they're either warded pixel or they're warded tribush. So level 2 ganks are actually to push on the vertical jungling point. So for example, if Jax actually handshake the vertical jungling, then red side would essentially have to play extremely safe, and because they have no wards to actually identify that Jax is doing the full clear jungle. And on the flip side, blue side would actually have no idea that J4 is in a position like this if he times the wards effectively, and it looks like that he has, because the early game wards would essentially expire by the time that J4 wants to look for a gank. So if the lane state was even and frozen correctly here, J4 can just simply waltz over here and just simply pull a flash with the EQ combo. If played effectively with the Thresh, because they could both flay and hook and Jarvan with the EQ combo. Either look for a kill or look for a flash. And again, looks like they didn't communicate it properly, and that's what happens. So J4 decides to also just like go to the very nitty-gritty parts of the game. Let's see how many seconds that J4 actually wastes doing this. 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, actually, let's just start from here. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is 12 seconds of inactivity while Jax has positioned into the top side. This is 12 seconds is like over exaggerated. That was more like 7 or 8 because he needed path regardless. But the fact that the small nuances is essentially what makes the game go faster and what makes the game go slower. That the time that you spent pacing back and forth here essentially meant that Jax, on the other hand, could effectively just path topside and have way more camps. These type of small nuances is also what makes the jungle position from Platinum Master or Platinum Diamond to Grandmaster Challenger, and essentially just like planning these things out and communicating with your team what you want to do way ahead of time is what's going to be very, very important. So they're just clearing. So Jax essentially gets the full clear and gets the scuttle. And J4 is just there. Basically, like at this point, J4 is just hoping and just like praying to God that blue side actually makes a mistake and steps forward so he can actually get a gank off. Because at this point, Jax is should be very far ahead in a couple seconds here because he just has more efficient clearing. And if, okay, for example, if this J4 ganks actually fails, Jax will simply move into the enemy jungle, eat Krugs, eat Raptors, and J4 would actually be done in the early game, simply because they did not communicate properly. So this actually baffles me because why is J4 waiting so long in this bush if he should have gone immediately? So let's just actually look at the positioning of the blue side bot lane. So J4 paps down. J4 is about to enter position. He waits in the bush. So this really comes down to what red side really wants, right? What can happen is the Thresh flashes forward, goes for the hook, and tries to get the Lulu. Lulu is usually with the more ideal target for the bot lane. But instead, what ends up happening is that they wait. Hold on, let's just count a little bit, all right? He walks into the bush. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12 seconds of time that he just spent while Jax is clearing his top side. These are also other small nuances that makes big differences. So in an ideal world, what should have happened is that the moment J4, if J4 kept pathing, in the next 4 to 5 seconds, he would be in this position. So once he hits this position, there's no way that blue side actually has a ward in the tri-bush. Because they cannot, it just simply does not work. They cannot put that ward down there. He should not stop. Continue pathing until he reaches this point. And then Thresh flashes forward, either flays or hooks. Ideally flay because it's much more, much higher percentage of success. Ideally, either target this person, cancel her W, or just effectively one-shot this person because J4 has the early game damage. They have Ignite. Lulu dies 100% of the time here. But higher IQ play, not really higher IQ, but higher risk play is essentially kill Tristana here, meaning that she will essentially have, if she dies here, with the wave position that she does, Tristana is actually completely done for the early game if Tristana actually dies here. So, riskier play, kill Tristana, deny her all these creeps, and she's fucking done because she has weak laning to begin with. Or high percentage play, kill Lulu. This should practically be a 100% play because she will simply flash once Thresh flash flays, and J4 cleans up with the EQ. So let's see what happens on the next play. Again, 12 seconds wasted. So this is a big fucking no-no if you want to look for a gank. Because again, understandably Thresh is in the position that he is. But if he actually engaged earlier and J4 actually kept pathing, Thresh 100% should have flashed forward and flayed one of these targets. So actually, let's go back and see exactly what the lane state is to see like what's the more optimal play. Okay. Keep pathing. 1, 2, 3. Next 3 seconds. Thresh should position further up. Kog'Maw should be positioning way further up around here. Even if this gank wasn't coming in, that's the way they should have positioned, knowing that the early game advantage that they have. So Thresh here, Kog'Maw here, knowing that the advantage that they have. So right off the bat, red side fucked up, J4 fucked up. In that frame right there, Thresh should have flashed forward, flayed Trist, and J4 come in for the cleanup. Focus Trist, I think, with the game state that it is. This is not the way you play this, by the way. And J4 should have path way sooner. What the fuck was that? Flash play. Flash play. Kog'Maw E. Tristana literally can't move. Then secure with the hook. This is a 100% play if J4 came way earlier, but this is pretty much just accepting the fact that both members essentially screwed up here. Oh, they actually canceled the EQ. The EQ actually cancels this Tristana jump, but at this point it's already like not played properly, you know. And just looking at this, Jax essentially means he has free reign over topside. So to just like walk away from this and look at topside, if Jax successfully gets this gank off, Sion would have an advantage in the lane that he shouldn't have, and essentially either impact other lanes or further get his advantage. So let's see what happens here. So let's see how this bot lane plays goes. So actually, I kind of want to go back and see like how Kog'Maw could have played this better and how the laners could have gone better, played that better. There's hook, cancels the jump. So just simply looking at this, Q is not down, Q is not up. Auto attack, flash forward. I'm not sure if Kog'Maw had Q, but if he did, I think if he Q'd here, the Tristana would have died. So red side basically took the big L on this play, and their early game is completely stifled due to judgment errors, mechanical misplays, and just like improper communication. This is already at a point where objectively speaking, red side screwed up big time, because Jax got to play exactly what he wanted to do to go for the double full clear. He has, like, at this point, knowing where J4 is, Jax can either eat both camps or just simply gank top. You can just probably eat both camps first and then gank top, and J4 would actually just be screwed already. So at this point, red side should lose early game looking at the game state. Not looking at this because Lissandra is the equalizing factor against Vladimir. So they should ideally either go, Lissandra should either go even or get a lead. So just looking at top and bot and jungle, red side already took the big L. Not optimal gameplay. Kog'Maw burns both sums. Jax eats all these camps. So let's just look at what's going to happen for the next couple minutes. Jax eats both camps. J4 actually has no camps up. So basically, either this gank has to go successfully or J4 is completely screwed. So Jax is actually kind of a bonobo. He should have gone Raptors first, knowing that J4 was in a position where he was earlier, and then go into Krugs, because that ensures that he eats both camps immediately. So now instead he loses out on 50 gold, which ultimately makes a pretty big difference in the long run due to the early game gold generation, and attempts this gank. This is not going to work in any realm. The only way that this gank actually works, okay, Just understanding how the game goes for blue side. His waves are pushing, which means that unless Kled actually is a complete idiot and walks forward, this gank never works. So by not eating this camp and this camp, it means that Jack's actually completely fucking through everything that he wanted to do, or he should be ideally doing. So he's fucking trolling by even going for this gank. He doesn't even burn flash. You just can't do anything now. So this gives a way out for the Jarvan, which means Jarvan can path. Actually, to be honest, if Jarvan understood jungle well enough, he resets immediately after this bot play and tries to fight Jax in his jungle. I think that's the ideal choice. If he like just looking at the game set, if he was counting CS, Jax has 25 and Jarvan has 20, right? He knows that Krugs were just taken because due to the position that Jax came from. If he was paying attention to the minuscule details, then he would understand that his Raptors are still up. So the moment that actually occurred, Jarvan should be backing, buying items, probably a longsword, I don't know, and then trying to fight Jax over the jungle because he is stronger than him early game. That is the most effective thing I can think of. He should not be clearing this camp because he will not have camps up for the next couple minutes, which means he resets and he would have to go back bottom side. That's the only path that he can take because his bot lane camps would be the only ones coming up in the next couple minutes. So if he reset right away, he could have gone to this camp. And if he had vision of the scuttle, he would understand scuttle's coming up. So if he got the reset off, took the Raptors, took the scuttle, and tried to fight over it, knowing that Lissandra has mid lane priority, they would win the 2v2 100,000%. So these are the small details, again, of what makes a good jungler and a not optimal jungler. So let's continue to see what happens. I don't even know why Jarvan is even walking up here, because this is ultimately like, this is the point where you understand that he's not thinking ahead, because just pressing tab and looking at the CS and looking at the path that Jax ganked from, he would know that his Krugs is never up. It's never gonna be fucking up. It's not up. So why is he wasting this time? This is just like, what? Alright. I just want to complete this point. This is a fucking end. This is how you end early game. This is why... This is like part of the reason why early jungling doesn't work, because you're not thinking about your pathing ahead of time, or not noticing the details going on in the game. So, just looking at the bot lane play. Okay. There's no way Red Side actually knows that Ward's here, but they should be immediately communicating that Kled has just used his TP after a botched gank, and that San still has TP, which means Red Side cannot be pathing or positioning as far as they should be. Ideally, like, they should not be this far up, while understanding that San has TP up. This play does not happen very often, because what essentially happens is that if San completes his TP, Kled gets to eat like 2 to 3 full waves before San even comes back to lane. This essentially means San just screwed himself to get bot lane ahead. This is like the do or die situation. Even if he gets the kill here, Kled would be able to push his advantage for the rest of the game. So let's see what happens. He does the TP on a dying blue ward. Completes the TP. Let's see what sums are up. Welcome up. And completes the... So, to be honest, at this point, this isn't worth it. I think ideally what should have happened is let Kog'Maw die here because he doesn't have flash, and he just used heal. Thresh should have simply just walked out, because either way, they're probably dead here because mid doesn't have priority. They don't know where Jax is, and like pathing this way essentially means like they know that Jax cleared his topside camps if they were paying attention and actually tracking the CS numbers. So this means that Jax can only be bottom side. So even best case scenario, they path to mid and Lissandra leaves like 2 to 3 waves of CS here, 1, 2 kind of, and reestablishes control of mid. They at least one member dies here regardless because Vlad would be able to kill either one. Kog'Maw dies 100% of the situation here due to this TP. So optimal play, Thresh simply walks out, take the Cog death, and just continue laning because Kog'Maw in this current state is already up almost 16 CS, 17 CS. So this is okay because San was willing to sack as much as he did to complete this play. So just like looking at wins and losses in terms of total gold amount, like just let this happen because San gave up a lot to make this happen, and red side should simply just walk out with the Thresh and just let Cog die. That is the optimal play. And by burning flash here, they are unable to go for any other aggressive plays later on to the game. And burning heal here also means that they are unable to go as aggressively as they want to. So again, let Cog die, Thresh walks away, Kled eats this wave, Kled eats the cannon wave, while San misses this wave and misses probably half to the full wave of this. And Kled would essentially be able to solo carry the game because he's so behind in tempo. Lulu flashes here because hard int. There's no world where you flash, and this, like, at this point Kog'Maw's already dead. Like, don't even flash forward. There's no point. Also, to further iterate why this play doesn't work is because when Thresh lanterns the Kog'Maw, he tanks these 2 minions, I think. No, he does not. What does he even die to then? Oh, just a simple auto attack. Never mind. This is a good cleanup play because Tristan is unable to push the next wave, which is good. But either way, to be honest, it's just like much more efficient to just let the Thresh live because right now you just gave him 600-ish gold. And this essentially gives Tristan a BF sword, 1 assist, 1 kill, and 2 assists to Lulu, and 1 kill to Jax. And this is essentially, in the right hands, this is pretty much not really GG for blue side because like they can still screw up, but blue side would have such a huge lead if like improper steps were taken. Like, yeah, red side would essentially current game state, red side top side gets a huge lead, J4 gets a complete back off, and Lissandra also gets a complete back off. So red side top side is in a very good position. Red side blue side on the other hand is not in a good position because of the non-optimal steps were taken. So let's see what happens next. Huh? What? Oh, okay, he's roaming up to eat the wave. Okay, I mean this is a smart move. San eats mid wave, Vlad goes top. This is good macro, I think. Yeah, this is really good. Smart play by blue. They normalize the losses. Alright. This is a very, very smart way to play this, actually, looking at it. Very smart. Okay, so this is a no-no. Thresh buys Mobies and tries to roam top. Why would you do this if Kog'Maw is returning back to lane knowing that Jax is bottom side and just receive the kill? Because what do you get out of this room? Best case scenario, you get the sound kill, but you essentially sack all the bot tempo. Jesus, the sound is fucking inting. Wait, he had vision of this ward. Why would he walk up? What? Wait, this guy's just hard trolling. This guy never dies here unless he actually ints as hard as he does here. Wow, that is a hard in. Jesus. That was so bad. Oh. This means Sion misses even more. Basically, red side, top side should already, like, hard win. Like, Sion's done. He's not coming back into the game. So, by Thresh roaming here, bot gets pushed in by blue side, which means they are able to push the advantage, ideally, but looks like he's actually just missing every single CS, or I don't know. Okay. To go back on that point, yes, this roam works, but in a ideal sense, in the game state as it is, like, I get it, the wave is pushing in, but in the lane that it is currently in, Trist and Lulu is weaker than Cog Thresh. So this is improper understanding of this matchup, because even at the summoner disadvantage, or actually both summons are used, both bot lanes summoners are used, you want to be able to come back to lane and essentially immediately look for a advantageous fight, because you two are stronger than these two. You land Flay or hook, and both hook, one instantly dies here. That's just reality. So this roam is good if you want to sack all bot lane pressure and play to the win condition of top side, and try to essentially shut down Sound even further and get Kled further ahead. Thumbs up if that's a win condition for what the red team actually wants to do. But by doing this against a actual competent bot lane, Kled, the Kog'Maw is actually completely done if this actually occurs against a good bottom lane, because you just sacked all the early game tempo that you would have in this advantageous matchup. So let's continue. There's the ward here. There's hook. Continue to receive CS. So, key point here. If they were paying attention to the game state and properly communicating, they know that Jax would essentially be pathing to red for sure, because he does not have red, and he started red. If you're paying attention to the nuances of jungle and actually counting the CS. So right now, red side should have a very good idea of what Jax wants to do and what his pathing is going to be for the next couple minutes, which is good for red side and good for Lissandra to get away from the gank. So it should be relatively even game state for the next couple minutes. Like, not a lot is going to continue to happen, because red side Jarvan should either be continuously pushing the tempo. Okay. So at this point, Jarvan should actually not be topside anymore, because Sound has entered the ungankable zone. The only reason Jarvan would ever be bots or topside again is to either counter gank to ensure that Kled further gets his lead, or simply returning bot side, because these Krugs, with Kled having Tiamat, he should actually just be giving it to Kled due to how big of a lead Kled currently has. After every single wave that's not currently pushing, once Kled eats the wave and comes to get the Krugs, he would have a even higher advantage, which means, like, at this point, to be honest, Kled should be in the 1v9 zone. He's just so far ahead off the early game tempo. Like, unless Kled severely screws up, San should not even come back into this game. Like, Kled is so far ahead because of the blunder that San had. Like, he died mid lane, and then he gave up like 3 to 4 full waves, or 2 to 3 full waves topside for that TP early game. So to further reiterate, J4 should be bottom, clearing bottom side, continuously tracking the jungle because he knows that Jax is going to clear his red. So once he clears red and actually tracks, he can continuously get vision in the bottom side and either confirm the fact that Raptors aren't up or Krugs aren't up, and you essentially give the stronger bot lane the thumbs up to play aggressively. So let's see what happens. By Jarvan being here and being here in the time that he is being here, what ends up happening is that after Jax completes his red, he will have full topside control. So to even go back another 15 seconds, why this is bad is further exaggerated because after Jax clears it, like if J4 cleared his Gromp, cleared his Wolves, and went to gank topside, then like thumbs up because you're playing towards your win condition of the Kled. But by clearing these Krugs here, it essentially means that you cannot return topside for the next 3 to 4 minutes. You essentially just ensured that Kled cannot further emphasize his lead because of your inefficient pathing, basically. Because if you were tracking the jungle properly, you would, and actually looking at his CS numbers after he ganked mid, let's see here. He has 35 CS, which means you know that he probably took Raptors because he's the same amount of CS as you are after you took Raptors. Or red? I'm not sure. I'm just like thinking back on it, but if he is at basically the same CS you are and he does not have red at this point and he started red, that means he's going to go back to red. And it probably means that Raptors are gone, which means he's going to pad back topside. So by you clearing this camp, you cannot come back to help the Kled. If Kled is your win condition, you just ensure that he cannot push his advantage. And if, like, in both win condition worlds, you do not clear this camp because at this point, because you do not play to either win condition. If you want to get bot lane ahead, you clear these two camps and try to establish vision bot side and path back up. That's the most efficient pathing I can think of. If you want to help Kled, you clear, again, these two camps, ignore blue for now, path back top, clear the Krugs, go for the counter gank on Jax as he paths topside if you were tracking him correctly, and you win the 2v2 because of how strong Kled is and how strong you are, and how weak Jax is early game due to the press the attack, and how weak Sound is because he died and botched a early game, or not really botched, but he lost a lot early game. So this is an indication of not thinking ahead. Let's keep going. Actually, not thinking ahead and not understanding what you need to do for your team. Mid lane game state should be even. Like at CS number, yes. Topside should have about a 20-30 CS advantage right after this. As expected, because Sound basically TP'd early game and mismanaged the waves. Died mid game or died early game again, so he should be up. He should be down 20 to 30 CS minimum. And if Kled is high enough level and CSing properly, he should have around 60 CS because he's staying in lane the whole time. Around 67 to 68 CS after clearing that wave. Which means in an ideal world, Kled is currently up 30 to 40 CS at this very moment. Which means that he's up like 400, 500 gold. 300, 400, 500 gold. And this is pretty much like the 1v9 state. If jungle path correctly, basically you don't lose any 2v2. You don't lose any 3v3 because of how strong Lissandra is. and basically you just pretty much dominate the top side of the map. If you're playing towards that win condition, of course. If you're still sticking with the bot side being strong, then you gank the bottom side and push the advantage. But knowing, like, in the game state that it currently is, probably the most efficient option is just, like, clear this, go top, and push the advantage top side. You don't lose any 2v2, you don't lose any 3v3 ever now. It's just impossible for you to lose. You're God mode now, because your Kled is so strong. Now let's see what happens. Mainly backed, push. Okay. Right after that push, I think you probably path topside to maybe burn Sion ulti, because you know that Vladimir just reset for Lissandra. You should probably path top and attempt some kind of engage or fight on the Sion. Let's see what happens. Wards, this is honestly fine, but if you wanted to be more proactive early game, then that would be more efficient in terms of proactivity. But this is also extremely good because you get turret plating, and you can probably proc the brain fart, but the turret damage. So this is good. This is good, but if you want to be proactive, you path top here, go with your Jarvan, and try to burn Sound ulti or Sound flash to get Kled even further ahead. Like if that exact situation happens, Sound is no longer in the game. He's fucking done. He doesn't do anything anymore. Sound is just, he's not even in the game anymore. He's done. Let's see what happens. This is another problem. Again, this is like more like not thinking ahead issue. One, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4 seconds. Not too bad, but basically, like, the moment that Sound postures the way he is, you don't even try. You just immediately start padding down to Raptors. In the given situation, of course. Like if the wave is here, and he's not even coming up to get these 2 minions, you know this is already warded. There's like, you don't even need to talk about it anymore. That's worded. So don't waste those. Like, again, to further iterate an early point, like this, like by properly optimizing any of your routes is gonna what makes the difference between a Grandmaster jungler and a Plat Diamond jungler. See the fact. Okay, actually I'm wrong. 4 seconds. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Another 10 seconds wasted. Like, this is because you're not pathing correctly. Or, like, not thinking ahead correctly. Because with those 5 or 6 extra seconds you spent in the bush, you could be clearing these Raptors and clearing all the way through the bot side. These small things is what makes the difference between efficiency and complete botching of early games. Just like, you have to think ahead if you want to push the tempo. So now, at this point, we know that Jax is topside, which means you want Kled to immediately, like, if this is being communicated properly with the jungler, you know that this guy's top, which means Kled wants to push this wave immediately and go for reset, because he already has such a huge gold advantage that if they were communicating properly, this would still be up. Kled pushes the wave, catches this, and you would have actually like a 40 CS advantage. And avoid the Jax gank after clearing these camps. And if this is still up, and if he actually cleared the bottom side, he would be in a perfect timing to gank top. But that does not end up happening, so it's fine. Let's see what happens. Bot lane game state looks even. Both bot lanes playing relatively safe because they're probably not tracking the enemy jungler. Why are you here? Why are you here? There's literally no other position that Jax could be in. Jax cleared red a minute ago, which means he has to be in the top side camps. You do not be here in any circumstance at all. This is inting. This is how you throw leads early game. You should not be in this position ever. This is like another example of improper communication and improper jungle tracking, because if you were tracking the jungle correctly, you know that Jack's in the position that he is right now. So by you being in this position, you probably have to burn flash in a couple seconds here. And then flash is what's gonna like kill the Scion. In the ideal world, you are not here, and you are like, if you avoid this gank and Jax actually commits the time to it, and you don't burn anything, that means Scion is no longer in the game. Like, it's really that simple. Again, this is what makes the difference between high level competitive play and just like not communicating jungle tracking properly. You should not be here in any world. If you're a jungler, or you like, it's not only the jungler's job to track the jungle, but a huge part should be on the jungler, because he's literally not even laning. Like, he should be looking at camps and looking at lane positions the whole time. Like, jungle should be able to track the jungle very easily, because they're not even fucking laning. They're hitting minions. So, again, jungle should be tracking the other jungler properly, or I don't know, dude. Like, this is what makes the difference between high level play and not high level play. Fight burns flash. He might actually even die to this. Oh god, no. You dying here essentially means you just gave Scion a way out. That's it. This is inefficient. This is inting. Yikes. The last 30 seconds essentially meant that all of Scion's mistakes early game are completely cancelled out. You're no longer the Kled is no longer as ahead as he should be. Jarvan botched his should be advantage, and Lissandra is missing CS mid game or mid lane. So this is an int. That's it. Okay. So rotating on mid lane plays as Lissandra, or rotating on plays on side lanes as Lissandra is good. But what's not good is not paying attention to Jax's level 6 versus J4's level 5. And like, just the fact that, like, okay, so to go back, sorry, okay, so to go back, just like analyze this play for the next couple seconds. Why does this not work? So Scion ulti's burned, Jax ulti's burned, Jax's ulti is still ticking right now. Why does this not work? So let's see. J4 positioned up way too early. So he eats the sound Q. This is no longer possible. Like the moment J4 eats damage before EQing forward, wow, okay. This does not work 99% of the time because these cannon minions here, these melee minions are here, and the range minions are here. So if J4 EQs forward, he eats all 3 aggros because he auto attacks due to the minion changes. Yes, they tank these minions, but J4 dies 100% here. All he gets damage off is EQ without ult, and with your full combo, you do not have enough damage to kill Jax or Sion. Maybe if J4 hits the Jax with his EQ, you kill Jax, but this is already a losing trade because you're not gaining anything out of it because you basically kill your J4 while attempting this play. 99% of the time, actually, like straight up 100% of the time, J4 dies in this situation if you go for this play. So this is the situation where it's not worth. Ideally, in this specific situation here, you don't even come up. You let the J4 eat the wave, and you stay mid to continue to neutralize this Vladimir. Yes, roaming's good, but you just have to be able to like tell whether or not it's a dead play, like dead on arrival. Because like with Kled's position the way he is, even if you try rotating up now, Kled is probably dead by the time you get there because his ulti just got cancelled, and they still have all their abilities up. So this play is dead on arrival. You path back mid, you push it out, and then maybe you can look for a play once again when Kled respawns, or you look for a bot lane play knowing that the jungle and top are both topside, and Sion doesn't have TP or LT. So to the radiate, push mid. If you know that top lane play is dead on arrival, because you all push the Vladimir, path down, maybe get some deep wards, maybe look for a gank, and or you push, maybe get a reset off, maybe get some wards on blue, and once Kled's back up, you contest the next play. Simple as that. And by doing this, pretty much red team has botched their 3v3 advantage, and right now, with the game state that it is, I'm not sure if they even win 3v3s from this moment on due to those 2 botch plays, or those 2 plays that simply didn't work. And to make matters even worse, it's an int because J4 slow splash. Good play on bottom. Get the kills, use the advantage properly, or use the matchup advantage properly. Those straight kills are worth because both supports get the kills and the Kog'Maw gets pushed in another wave. Good, good, good. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going to happen for the next couple minutes. Okay, knowing the game state that it is, you have to clear your bottom side, right? So top basically almost got equalized due to exactly what happened. So Kled has a 20 CS lead, but Sion just got a kill, which means this is now equalized. Both top laners are currently equalized, and Sion got to push an extra wave, which means their XP numbers are also equalized. Top lane status is currently equalized, which means to play through the Kled win condition, you would need to clear these camps and head straight top. And if you were tracking the jungle properly, you would understand that after Jax completes his play, you will clear the remainder of his topside camps, either reset or head back bottom. So what you can do, you clear these camps, you head straight back top, take Lissandra with you after gaining priority, and just look for a dive or look for turret playing. That is your first win condition possibility. Second win condition possibility, for Jarvan, you are slightly behind, actually pretty fucking far behind, but if you can get this gold bounty onto Kog'Maw, then he would, at the state that he is with a 30-something CS advantage, if he gets this kill bounty while also fighting the 3-3 and winning, essentially Kog'Maw would become God mode right after that play. So you have 2 different options here as a jungler, but If you want to go for the safe route and not take the 3v3, that's a very safe route and more ideal. Simply clear your bottom side camps and head straight back top. Take the Lissandra with you and look for a either dive or further third plating, because there's no way that Jax can be back on top side after that play just happened. So what essentially happens is that you would give the Drake, and after you take a couple of third plating, you could probably take this after the blue side attempts the bot lane gank with proper jungle tracking, of course. Vladimir gets priority, paths bottom. No, nothing's gonna happen because Kog'Maw knows this. Okay. So this is another one of those miscommunication moments where you essentially are question marking. So why is this a question mark? J4, if Thresh is going to roam here, actually there's probably no window where Thresh should actually roam here, but even if Thresh wants to roam, J4 needs to clear this camp, and this camp to even stay in the game. Thresh does not roam here. In any circumstance, Thresh does not roam here because Lissandra's barely pathing mid. Max Thresh gets out of this is a ward, and I don't know if San dies. If San dies to this play, he's actually just bronze. There's no way anything happens out of this. What should happen is Thresh paths back bottom and either looks for river wards or tries to walk with the J4 and get deports. If they want to play, of course, the Kog'Maw win condition. But if you want to play to the Kled win condition, Thresh doesn't even roam here. He just goes back bottom and sees what kind of 2v2s can happen and just help the Kog'Maw stay safe because he knows that Jax will simply be pathing bottom. And after clearing those camps, he's probably going to either solo dragon or look for a bot lane play. Thresh, this is an improper roam timer. And even if Thresh wants to do this thing, Jarvan clears should be clearing Gromp and not Wolves first. Blue, then Wolf, then path top. If you want to play it to Clyde win condition, because by you clearing this Wolves here, you have to go this, and then back up. This is like 4 or 5 seconds of wasted timing from pathing if you want to play towards that win condition. So if J4 is currently doing this, this can only be one thing. He's trying to look for a bot lane play. If he does not look for a bot lane play, it means you are not thinking ahead, and you're probably inting. That's just reality. Okay. Like, what is this? Why would you even path to river? Your support's not here. If Jax is here, he solo kills you. Let's go back to another circumstance of how much time you waste. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You waste 19 seconds. This is not planning ahead. Points done. Thresh, he's making the most out of this run by clearing this. Good. But you're kind of just like leaving your bot laner on an island on Kog'Maw with no escapes. So, yeah. You're 60% health, man. Like, Jax, after clearing these 3 camps, which you know he's going to do, there's no way he's any lower than 60% as well. And knowing that, you know that he has an advantage over you because he has 2 kills and assists. You have 1 assist, which means Jax should be stronger than you at this point. If you are in equal health states, if you are thinking ahead, you don't do this. You just simply path top. Yes, Cled's taking your Krugs, but if you're pathing top through river, or not even going for red, but if you're pathing top or pathing mid before going top, this would be much more efficient use of your time, because like the way you're standing here, it means you're not thinking ahead. He's level 9. You're level 6. Don't do it. Vlad's at a point where he hypothetically should have enough damage to actually kill you if you're level 6. Each level worth of stats is around 300 to 400 amount of gold. So he's up 1.3k amount of gold over you in terms of raw stats. You will probably die here if Vlad plays this successfully, and there's no way Vlad ever dies here. Especially if he has Cleanse and Flash. Don't go for this. Waste of time. Show up, but walk away right away, because you burn pool, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Vlad is inting because he burns Flash here. Like, at worst, he gets W'd and then ulted, but if he throws down ulti, if Vlad throws down ulti here, he doesn't need a flash because he could simply cleanse both. Vlad's inting. Not efficient. Sounds like even... Oh my god, this is so bad. Sounds even pathing down for this play. So if he doesn't flash here and re-engages, this is so bad for blue side or red side, because Sound paths down, ults down. Vlad pulls and then doesn't flash. Cleanses. Ults both. Walks to the side. Sound ults in. Jarvan is dead. And Lissandra has to essentially walk away from the play. It's done. Because they know that Clyde won't be in the play. He doesn't flash here. And this is like in it for red side play. This is improper communication from blue side. Blue bot side freezes correctly. Stay safe. Very optimal play. And what the fuck? Why are you still bottom side? By the way, red side probably doesn't see this at this point because Jax was in the fog of war for a pretty long time. But Jax is up 2 levels. You don't even try this 3v3 anymore because of how far ahead Jax is. Doesn't matter how far ahead like the red side bottom lane is. If Jax is as strong as he is at this point in the game, you simply just don't go for this play. Path top side. Waste less time. This is very important. Eat this. Eat this. Push the Clyde tempo. Like, even if this guy is your win condition, you don't, like, you don't attempt this 100% time. You never attempt this. Just don't do it. So what essentially this means is, yes, blue side gets dragon, but if Jax paths top right now, because there's in no world does red side actually stop this because of how strong their jungler is. At this point in the game, Ocean Drake is not worth throwing the early game advantages of this composition. You want to get since Kog'Maw has created a freeze here, and Lissandra gets to push this wave. Yes, they have weaker laning phase, but you do not want to contest over this because of how weak your Jarvan is at this current moment. Like, I'm still not sure if... Yes, actually, no, I'm sure. Jax has pathed over a ward at some point, and you see that he's level 9 with... Or level 8 with a 2 level advantage over your Jarvan. You just simply don't try this. You have Jarvan actually farm up and catch up EXP. Because rubber banding is a thing in jungle, and if he actually starts farming correctly, he can catch up to Jax's level. Just simply don't waste time here. Like, you just gotta think further ahead. This is improper game understanding to actually even think about trying this. Like, okay, go back. Kog'Maw is able to create a freeze if Jarvan doesn't attempt this. This entire wave is freezable, but because Jarvan wants to attempt this play, Kog'Maw has to sack this entire wave and try to contest with the team. So, what is even... Okay, I'm assuming that was a spectator bug, but yeah, like this play is in once again. Because if Kog'Maw actually froze that, and with the game state as it is, Kog'Maw gets an even higher CS advantage than he already has. He has a 40 CS advantage. If he actually froze that, it could become a 50 to 60 CS advantage before 12 to 13 minutes. So, ultimately, think ahead. Think about the current game state. And that's pretty much it. Interesting. Why is red side even here? I don't know. That's in it. Okay. So, with the game state already as it is, so Jarvan's not even at this play. Kled does not TP here. Kled pushes this. So, like, this is to go back on what, like, blue team wants to do, right? Blue team wants the top lane to be low econ. They want to push the tempo, like, even after the first, like, gank, TP gank. You already know. They're willing to sacrifice their top lane to get bot lane ahead. To counteract this, like, just looking at this, bot lane should never be posturing as they are. Top lane should not be TPing there because he wants to push the tempo even further ahead. If he eats this wave, maybe even goes a little more ballsy, eats this, with J4 still sieging bottom, or sorry, Jax still sieging bottom, they can pretty much secure a rift for sure, and like maybe even eat those camps and have J4 come back. Like, TP is not the right play, and Thresh stop watching there, but it happens. Like, just off that play, if red team responded properly, rift would be taken because J4 is already topside, and Kled gets to eat 2 to 3 waves for sure before Sion comes back. So yeah, those small things would actually just, like, this gold in the next 30 seconds will become okay. So actually, like, even going back, if Kled doesn't die earlier and blue side actually attempts to play that they do now, Kled should have a 2k advantage just on his own. That might be that might be a little bit too much. It's probably just like 1k, but like as a team, this would be 20.3ish k gold if Kled never dies there. And if he's actually like pathing and eating correctly, J4 is also pathing correctly. Like, game state as it is, red side should have a massive advantage. But due to improper understanding of what they want to do, the game's currently even. So, yeah. So both teams reset. Good. Like, Kled basically gets absolutely nothing out of it because they know that blue side's not going to push the next wave because they leave right after he TPs. So the moment that Kled actually loses vision of these two guys, it's like just immediately back so you can path back top. It's that simple. Because you know that they're not going to keep going. So, just looking at the game state, the Kog'Maw actually has a 1 item while Tristan is sitting on half item. Kog'Maw is so fucking far ahead that even through all those early game batches, like, it's just ridiculous. So, let's continue on the game. Also, he has a 450 gold lead because of the early game batches. With these 2 items completed, with the Frozen Heart, honestly, like if he was even higher IQ, I think if he went Bramble Vest, like Kled actually doesn't do anything anymore because he went Tiamat and didn't have Black Cleaver. So San's inting, but red side top side is inting even more.
Turret plating will fall soon.
So next major objective on the map is Rift Herald. Hold up, I'm trying to think, like, how do I bring up the gold numbers? Oh, there we go, Z. So actually, Kled actually has a pretty sizable advantage, but again, to like further iterate. Currently, Jax is so fucking far ahead of the Jarvan, it's actually disgusting. So this comes from, again, like not thinking ahead correctly and not understanding like what Jax wants to do versus what you as Jarvan wants to do, right? Like if you're behind this much gold before 14 minutes, it means you basically completely botched the early game. Like you pick a Jarvan and you want to get the early game pacing, but if the other team gets 6 kills by 14 minutes, it means you failed as a jungler. This, like, by picking the early game jungler, this should be flipped. Yes, like bot lane has died on their own, but the fact that Jarvan was unable to turn effectively topside or was unable to prevent those kind of deaths, or for bottom side, well, like, Jarvan's not God, okay? But, like, it just simply means that Jarvan didn't do his job correctly this game, basically. Jax is so fucking far ahead. So, right now, Rift Herald's off the table. If blue side was actually thinking correctly, Jax alone with Sion means that they win any 2v3. Once Vladimir's in, it's not even a contest. They just win. So, red side, you cannot approach Rift Herald unless the blue side has tanked Rift Herald for a decent chunk of time. From here on out, you really, really, really need to push the bot side tempo, because like you can give Rift Herald, but you really need to get the cog even further ahead because like Jax is such a huge factor that if he's able to come into, like, if you're tracking like, even without tracking, you know their blue's coming up, right? Because of his bot lane plays earlier. So no matter what, Jax is going to be topside here, which means you can no longer play around the Kled because Jax is so fucking strong. Vlad is also very, very strong, which means 3v3 at this point is not possible. So don't play towards the top side of the map. Have Lissandra push in mid, J4 start pathing bottom, sack all camps, and try to get this tower immediately, because at the game state that it currently is, you have to give him Rift Herald because you can't contest him over it. Like, you can't, like, if J4 completes a gank top lane, Jax will be there to counter. If they want to go for a mid lane play, Jax will be there. Of course, if they are competent. So you can no longer play around topside at this current state of the game. So let's see what happens. And to speak further, like, this is just like objectively based analysis. So like, a lot of this has nothing to do with like what the player is or anything like that. This is what I believe is how they're playing the game and how they're not playing the game. So at this point, Jax and Jarvan will 100% match top, and Jax playing it correctly goes to solo the Rift Herald, because he knows that both laners have priority, or will have priority, and he's much stronger than Jarvan. So props to Jax. Let's see what happens next. Why is this play bad? Because of everything I just mentioned earlier. So mid's starting to lose a little bit, which is okay, because Lissandra's usefulness is outside of laning, and her teamfight ability and her versatility, and her being just like a broken champ. But yeah, like, it's okay for the current game state as it is. Vlad Q's a minion, over Qing the Lissandra, hard hit. Jesus, where is the gold lead even coming from? Like, what the heck? Red side has a 1k gold lead. Oh, let me see. It's off Kog'Maw. Whoa. Or the bot lane, rather. Nice. So this is thumbs up and very, very smart from Blue side, because knowing the 2v2 in the current situation, like, Kled has been, due to early game mistakes, has been equalized with Sion, which means Sion is more effectively useful than the Kled because of his versatility and kit. By playing around the Sion and enabling the 2v2, Blue side is hitting their win condition, which is to have Jax be strong. And knowing Jax is stronger than Jarvan is half the battle, because they will win any 2v2 in any given circumstance. Very smart from Blue side. So what's the response here, right? Like, if they're gonna get this, and honestly, like, it's smart play, but this thing's full health, so this thing gets one push off and Kled simply kills it. Yes, it's a smart play, but they should have called Vladimir to the play and attempted perhaps a harder pressure play. But just simply, like, if you're looking from blue side Jarvan, you know that they're not going to be able to get this tower, right? Because you see Vladimir mid, and you know that only Jackson, Sion are top, and you know that Kled is still full health in this lane. So like you and Lissandra actually don't path top. Lissandra paths mid, clears the mid wave. Jarvan gets blue, clears the blue, and immediately goes for a bot lane dive with Lissandra, because Lissandra will continue to get priority throughout most of the early to mid game. So Lissandra goes bot after clearing mid. Jarvan clears his blue or hands off blue and goes for the dive bottom, and that's how you punish a play like this, because you know that they're not going to be able to get this tower. They just can't. They don't have the damage in this current state. Maybe if they pressure hard enough, but Kled is still a champion. Like, he still has the same amount of gold as Sion, which means even if they tried, they can't. So, like, understanding this, Jarvan should be pathing bottom side. Again, thinking ahead, recognizing what to do at correct times. Right, like, that's all the damage that it's going to take, because they only had one wave prepped. Right? By you pathing top, what do you get out of being top here? Right? They don't have another minion wave coming in, which means the only way that you actually go into lane here is that you actually encourage a fight. You're still one level down from Jax, and let's look at how much gold he has over you. He has 1,400 worth of gold over you, which means you do not take this. You just simply don't. You avoid the Jax and you punish other parts of the map. Not only this, but Lissandra doesn't even have mid lane priority, which means Vlad will be able to go on this play. So if you go on an even 3v3, you will lose 99% of the time because of how far ahead Jax is compared to Jarvan. Yes, Jarvan's kit is still useful even if he doesn't have as much gold. But why would you take a disadvantage fight, right? At this point, you're just praying that you mechanically play better than the opponent. And, like, pray to God that the item advantage isn't as important as it is, right? So, this is, again, not planning ahead. Okay. Why would you path back bottom without resetting? You're sitting on 1.2k gold, and you could buy tier 2 boots at this current moment, right? So you buy tier 2 boots and you get an extra item, and you would practically be at the same power level as Jax. Even if Jax also gets the recall at the same time, like if Jax actually recalls and you path here without recalling, he would probably be around here. Like, what would you even do? Like, if you gank bottom, you know he's coming back bottom side because he just botched to play top. Like, it's not really botching to play top, but you know he's gonna be back bottom side. Like, 50% time he's gonna reset here and buy 1,100 worth of gold. You pathing back bottom without resetting is like, just like what? It's these small things. Wow, their Jax is not tracking at all. Wait, Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Jax is so bad. Holy fuck. Jax was sitting on 1,300 gold, which means he would have been halfway through Triforce. If he had waited to do this dragon attempt after a recall, that would have been a clean fight. But by forcing without actually purchasing, and not even thinking about the pathing, that maybe like he was just totally confused by Jarvan not recalling there. Maybe it's like, what the fuck? Like, this guy, I don't know. Like, but Jax played that so bad. Jarvan, on the other hand, just like didn't recall, which meant he couldn't do anything, right? So it's just what the fuck. Blue team gets mid, probably gets Drake right afterwards. Another hard at play. Now blue team has advantage. This is on the other hand, okay. So like, let's think back. All right, if Kled was doing the right things time after time after time this entire time, what the game state would be right now? Kled would be up 2 to 3 levels. He would be up another 30 to 40 CS because Sion keeps making these cross map plays. And Kled would actually just be God mode right now. He'd be level 13 to 14. And once he takes this tower, he can literally go to any lane he wants and just kill anyone. That's it. Like, if Kled doesn't make the mistakes that he does, he would actually just instantly solo carry this game. So again, it's these small mistakes that builds up to very, very big differences. Like right now, like let's see, how much gold does Kled have? Kled is dead even, and that's awful because of how many opportunities that Kled had to actually like combat Sion's playstyle. Right? If he didn't die earlier, if he pushed the waves that like he should have, if he didn't TP. Right now, he'd be in God mode. Like, he'd have Black Cleaver completed. He'd be on his way to a GA. He'd be so ridiculously strong that, like, within the next 3 to 4 minutes, blue side would actually just be dead. If played correctly. Because that's it. That's just it. Very smart macro play by Kog'Maw to get mid after knowing that their bot lane or their team in general overstayed to get dragon, which means mid is free.
Blue team's turret has been destroyed.
Game stays relatively even. See what happens in the next couple minutes. So their bot lane tries to go for a top tower play, and let me explain why this is not optimal. So right now, unless blue side is actually willing to sacrifice all their resources for their bot lane, which is like a very effective strategy, unless they're willing to do that, they can't really siege this because they lose in the 2v2 against these two. So let's look at the item advantage. So Kog'Maw with these completed items means that he's currently stronger than Tristana, unless Kog'Maw does not kite correctly and Thresh like hardens. At this current game state, Kog'Maw is up 1 level, and it just means they win the 2v2. So unless Jax is willing to sack all of his camps and just like perma stay with this bottom lane topside, this is the only way they actually take this tower. They open themselves up to a gank because at this point they can't really control what's going on mid due to the mid tier ones being gone. So blue side should not actually be here. Blue side should just simply constantly push in waves and look for opportunities to roam into side lanes and see what kind of plays they can make. So blue side is committing a mistake in this situation, and red side's good for recognizing that and responding to it by sending Kled mid, because Kled outpushes the Sion at this point in the game, and Lissandra still has TP, which means he can continue to match the Vladimir. So red side is making very strong and smart macro decisions at this point in the game compared to blue side. Like continuously doing these small actions will essentially cancel out all their mistakes from early game. But if you think about it that way, if red side had not committed those mistakes in the early game and continuously did these macro games, this gold lead would have ballooned to a 35k gold lead. Well, actually no, thinking back on that, they would have a 31 point maybe 6k gold lead, and they would have like 28k if they did not make the mistakes that they did. At minimum. This is like at minimum. So just because they are making good mid-game macro decisions doesn't cancel the fact that they made horrible decisions earlier in the game, right? So at this point, both teams are converging onto top side, which is to be expected because right now, like, they want to group up and try to team fight both teams. Maybe not red side because they want Kled to balloon their lead, but yeah. Okay, this is dangerous for two reasons. Because they not only do not kill this guy in any circumstance, but if they had if San had postured correctly, he could immediately ult and drift to this side and effectively get 2 picks. Do not be in this position if you know that San's here and Jax is coming up, because San can simply ult in and Lulu can ulti, or the Jax can Q in and Lulu can ulti and you both die. So this is a dangerous play. Don't do it. So now, this is a good answer. This is a good bait. But in any average game in an even game state, and if blue side actually plays correctly, and Vlad was actually there for the fucking play, red side would have gotten fucked in the upcoming fight. But because they punished this mistake, which is good, they get to come back from this play because it's a good decision. But the fact that blue side tried to commit this without Vladimir is fucking egregious. It's like the biggest question mark moment I've ever seen. So what's probably going to happen in a couple seconds is Lissandra's going to complete the TP and they're all going to get aced, or they're all going to die right now. Like, why would this person why would they try this if Vladimir's not there? He's probably the strongest member on the team he is the strongest member of the team. So blue side hardened by trying something like this, and this is essentially the gateway to coming back into the game. And from what it looks like from the rest of the game, it's pretty much done. Like, making these kind of mistakes is what instantly throws games. And just like that, all the bounties are recovered. It is a 3k gold swing just off that. Right? Now, on the other hand, alright, imagine if red side had never made these mistakes, and imagine how strong they would be now if they didn't make these mistakes, right? Kled would, they can have Kled engage any fight they want. They can have Jarvan engage any fight they want. They can run anyone down on the blue side team, right? So a lot of this stuff is just like understanding what you want to do as a team and also what they want to do as a team. I'm trying to think like what Vladimir could have done here. Maybe if he was running Ghosts, he could try to like come in, maybe ult, but nah, this play never works. Like, he wouldn't know that J4 doesn't have spray here. So I think Vladimir should have simply just pushed mid. He does get 2 kills here, which is pretty nice. But if you did that earlier, it would have been different. Again, the more optimal play would probably just be catching side waves, I think. So now, red side has a massive advantage. It's almost 4K now. So, ideally, I think, just have Kled split and just have 4 members in any given lane at all times at this very moment. Because even if, like, Kled should be decently strong now, but, like, again, if he never made those mistakes, he would be much stronger. Hold up. Let's see. Oh man, Kled has a 1.3k gold lead. Mild shock. Like, I'm gonna continue to make this point, but if Kled hadn't made these mistakes, he would have 210-ish CS, and he would have a 8.5 to 6k gold. Right? So like, just like if you don't make these mistakes, you would be much stronger.
Blue team.
Why? Right? Mid hasn't even been pushed in. You and Lissandra don't have enough pressure to hold control of this. By you being in this position, you gave him a chance to engage on you. So, nope. This is a question mark. This is an int. This is also how you throw leads. Like, you just got Baron buff. And by you posturing so far up without mid priority or bot priority yet, this is a int. He doesn't die here, but you lose tempo off this, which is the worst of all. By, like, okay, Kled is very strong, right? But you, like, by handshaking a fight here, if you are mechanically misplayed or outplayed as red side at any point, this entire lead's gone. It's gone. The 450 gold shut down, yeah, and then pretty much like if blue side gets a miracle ace, red side's done. Like, because you don't want Tristan and Lulu to scale any later into the game. You don't want Vlad to scale any later into the game. You don't want Jax to scale any later into the game. So don't go for these kind of fights, right? Like, you don't handshake these kind of fights regardless of what lead you have, because you could simply push bottom, push mid, maybe push top. Who knows? Like, you, by pushing in these waves and slowly chipping away at these towers, you don't give the other team an opportunity to come back into this game. Because there will be games where blue side will be able to out team fight you through sheer mechanics or sheer luck that you red team misplays. And if that ever happens, red side loses. This entire gold lead is gone. So by not embracing these kind of fights, you get to push your advantage even further. Because just because they're receiving creep waves doesn't mean you're not receiving it either. By getting to these item thresholds, hold up, look. By reaching item thresholds, like 3 items on Kog'Maw, while maybe Trist has 2 because Kog'Maw's already halfway through his 3rd item. By having lasagnas before you fight on Lissandra, by having a GA on Kled so that even if mistakes happen, you get to do whatever you want. By having that black lever, by having Locket, by having any of those things, by taking fights then, would be infinitely better than taking fights now. Right? So, don't take these fights. There's no reason to. Like, just because you win these fights doesn't mean this fight is good, right? Because you're simply giving them a chance to fight. When you're ahead, you don't give teams a chance to fight. With Baron buffs, you just want to be able to push the tempo. That's it. You want to get towers, get drakes, get all those major objectives. Like, okay. Imagine if this fight never happened. Kled, since they have to send so many members mid, Kled would be able to take this and he would be chipping away at this tower. If the play didn't occur, with what just happened. So again, like, to emphasize that fact. Good call to not get Dragon, because that would be a massive overstay and a waste of Baron, because... Okay, if you have Baron, don't waste time on any kind of like dragon such as Ocean or Air, because with the time that you're getting this dragon, unless someone is soloing it, these waves are not getting Baron pressured. They're not getting the Baron aura. So by you getting Dragon as maybe a team with 3 or 4 or more, you aren't using Baron effectively. So whenever you have Baron, try not to fight and try to push waves so you can chip at these towers, because these are little sacks of gold waiting for you to take. And each time you take one, you have a better chance at item advantage. Okay, Baron should be running out right now. It's about 70-ish% through. So now maybe getting Dragon is okay, because you won't be able to pressure these lanes very well with J4 being reset. So right now, you kind of just want to sack topside, because if you want to get this Dragon, you want to get these 2 waves pushed in. So you send Kled bottom, you send 3 to 4 members to get mid party, and then you go get Dragon, because you might as well take it because it's free. So now that red team doesn't have Baron buff, and they still haven't reached the item thresholds where they can be totally OP at with Zhonya's and 3 item Kog'Maw, what they want to do now is continuously push in waves and try to catch blue side whenever they are in disadvantage fights. So like, for example, if Triss is trying to clear mid and they see Jax, they should immediately engage, stuff like that. So like, just try to catch people out with deep vision. Like, these wards are very good from red side to try to effectively catch people out. So this is good. This is very good for the red team. Right now, basically, red team wants to bide their time. Like, inaction is action. You don't need to do anything. Like, you wait until blue team makes mistakes, because they have to make mistakes to come back into this game. They have to take risky situations. So you keep pushing in waves. If they are ever not grouped or have one member in a side lane or something like that, you go for the pick. If not, you simply wait for Baron to come back up. That is your win condition as red team for the next couple minutes, because you do not want to give the other team, again, any even fights, you don't want to give when you're ahead, because by fighting, you are giving them a chance to come back into this game. You don't need to fight when you're ahead. You don't, like the greatest teams in the world, don't fight when they're ahead unless you're in the LPL, in which case just keep fighting. Monkey it out. Or in NA LCS. I'm honestly not entirely sure why they're giving Jax side lane farm, because they're just pushing San even further behind, or just like not giving Vladimir any farm. That's not very efficient from blue side. Like, at this point, gold would be much better placed on San and Vladimir, because they'll be beefier for the champions on red side. So blue side with improper resource management. pretty much where Kled's completely got mode. And again, if you didn't make the mistakes you did early game, you would be even stronger than this. So let me kind of explain some of the reasons behind this team fighting. By Kog'Maw posturing so far ahead with flash up, if San actually ultis in, Kog'Maw is able to flash out of the way to nullify one of their primary engage ultis. So with the fight, hold on, let me just have you watch it. By being this far forward, you're essentially, Kog'Maw is essentially inviting San to use his ulti. So at this point, there's no way he can say no, right? They know that Kled's top. So by dodging it, and that's not optimal flash, but actually no, that is optimal because Jax would be in the way. But by San not hitting his primary ulti for engage, Kog'Maw, if actually not postured the way that he is, he can actually go further back over here and start free hitting the Sion. Jax would have to start engaging on these two champions first before getting to Kog'Maw. If Kog'Maw was further back, it would be much better positioning actually, now that I think about it. But that's not the point. So at this point, Kled is finally coming forward, which means the red side needs to keep kiting back with these three champions. These two need to continue to save their ultimates so that Kled can clean this up, because they know Kled has the majority of their gold at the current moment. Yes, Kog'Maw is strong, but Kled is much stronger at level 15 than the level 13 Sound, level 13 Jax, level 14 Vladimir, level 12 bot lane, etc. So they want, after this engage, they just want to wait for the Kled to come in to basically clean everyone up, because Kled is practically god mode at this moment due to how high his level is and how many items he has. So let's continue going forward. That's some good team fighting. Poggers. Their thing is pretty much taking him, and the game goes on. Honestly, I can't really explain why that was good, because yes, that got the fight to happen, but it's probably not that good because Kled can just keep pushing and they can just posture Baron later. That was probably an int by Kog'Maw, to be honest. I was just kind of memeing. Yeah, that was bad. So now, red side, all they have to do to close out this game. To be honest, if Kled didn't TP there and just simply ulted in, that would have been like extra thinking ahead and extra high IQ, because if he saved TP, he can actually just straight up go bottom and just like solo take their entire base, because the 4 members of red side can just simply Baron dance for the rest of the game because they have Thresh and Jarvan and just escape anything, and Lysandra. So 900 IQ play would have been not TPing and just simply pushing, or like simply ulting into the fight from earlier. But that's just kind of nitpicking. So at this point, it's kind of just smart to send Lysandra to go bottom and try to get as much as possible. Like, since Kled is with the team, like with how strong he is, he can literally just do whatever he wants. So let's get it. Once they get mid wave pushed in with the super minions, top wave pushed in, you can just do the Baron dance forever. Because blue team no longer has any tools to win fights very well, unless they pick. that's a good play. 'Cause they don't have vision. All you have to do is just wait. So this is also blue side completely inting, because you would much rather have Sion in the fight than stopping Lissandra from entering the fight, right? Sion is your primary front line. You do not want the 4 members of your team fighting these 4 members, not including Lissandra, at any point without Sion, because Sion is your fucking meatbag. Like, if Kog'Maw gets free hitting on squishy targets, if Kled gets to do whatever he wants against the backline, it's fucking over. You actually can't teamfight. So by having Sion stop Lissandra, it is simply just not worth it, because you need Sion in the fight to actually fight. So blue side is fucking inting. This is why TP on mid laners is so good, because if Vladimir, or if they, to be honest, if they had any other mid laner and could run TP, they can just send both TP mid laners to just duke it out bottom. That's why they're so good, because like right now with top lane, you have so many bruisers and so many strong members like Kled that can literally do whatever they want at once they're ahead, right? So by having mid laners on side lanes and just like posturing to push out, it's just so strong, because you have so many tools at your, like, whenever you want to use them. So yeah, I mean, it just concludes the point. Like, if you have a mid lane that has a TP while having a head top laner, you can just literally do whatever you want and have any lane assignments that you want. I don't know. At this point, it's pretty much game over. There's nothing left Blue can do, because they not only didn't get their Tristana ahead enough, their Vladimir died too many times, their Sion wasn't able to use his lead effectively. They just make too many mistakes to be able to win anymore. Unless red side actually deliberately gives blue side free, like, disadvantage, like, bad fights. If red team ever gives them bad fights, that's the only way they can come back. So yeah, this game's pretty much minutes from being over. All they need to do is just have it push in with Baron minions, and their team literally can't stop it, because they don't have the tools. Vladimir isn't the best for playing Baron minions, and Trist isn't very good either. She'll take a long time, but she can't even, like, if Tristana's mid, then she's not holding side lane, and it's a win-win for red. Basically all you need to do is just kind of be patient and have, like, Kled do whatever you want, and then just hit towers whenever there's a big minion wave. And that's game. Nice. So ultimately, it's decision making that won red team the game, and improper macro from blue team. So it's a combination of both. So the issue with blue team losing early game and making as many mistakes as they had is problematic, because if they are going against higher tier teams, they will be able to punish and not make as many mistakes. It's like the game of who makes more mistakes, right? Who makes more important mistakes when it comes down to it. Blue team made too many mistakes to stay in the game, while red team started making less mistakes and they started getting further ahead, right? So ultimately, the story of this game is, if red team actually played early game properly, then red team would actually just stomp, absolutely stomp blue team if they played it properly. If blue team did simply played to scale and just like gave up what they needed to give up and actually put all their eggs into the Tristana basket, they might have been able to clinch through with the Vladimir Tristana and just like actually played to have Sion be that meatball that he wants to be, you know? If Tristana and Lulu and Vladimir were as strong as Kog'Maw, Lissandra, and Thresh, eventually these three are going to be stronger, a lot stronger than these three. And with early game going as badly as it did for red team, then if Jax didn't give up the gold bounty, and if Jax didn't make the same amount of mistakes that he did against Jarvan, Jax would have hard outscaled Jarvan and basically would have been able to maybe even solo carry the game if he didn't make the mistakes that he did. But they ended up making it, so they ended up losing. So basically, moral of the story, if you're going to pick a composition, play to its strengths, right? Do your best to not make mistakes. Understand what you want to do. Don't take 45 fights. Play to your strong members for blue team. For red team, don't make mistakes that throw your laning phase. Think about what you want to do ahead of time. Roam perhaps more optimally. Also think ahead. Position better. Think about roams ahead of time as a cost to benefits analysis. And critically think about what you lose when you roam for the support main or the support player. So that's it for my VOD review. Thank you guys very much for watching. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.